Hi, everybody. This is the Baseball Hut, the amazing, spectacular, terrific, the great one, the People's Champion, your host, the Hut. And this is another report on the insane asylum known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha-ha. They're coming to take me away, ho-ho, hee-hee, ha-ha, to the funny fun.
Now, welcome back to the Baseball Hut 2, and hope you like this video and hit that subscribe button. So here we are back again, talking about the Nut House, known as WFAN. As you know, if you don't know, they used to be in Astoria, Queens. And no longer here. They're in Manhattan. Thank God. Get them the hell out of this borough. They've been out of here for a while. But WFAN has had a war with New York Mets and absolutely abusing us Met fans for 35 years. They like to think that they speak for us. Just because you're called WFAN does not mean that you speak for us. You do not speak for me and a lot of other Met fans that do not listen to your radio station anymore because of the constant complaining and the constant unfairness. And that's what we're talking about. Now, they've sort of tempered this a little bit over the last few weeks. 2 weeks ago, they had, the first week of spring training, they completely went scorched earth on the Mets. They said that Met fans were disappointed in the offseason. But more importantly, they done nothing but complain. In particular, they went after Brandon Nimmo, saying, in particular, the Coconut Head, also known as Brandon Tierney, called Brandon Nimmo a fake hustle guy. Also, the morning show, Gregory, had called the players and the Mets signed a bunch of schmucks. Now, this is a Met fan, but they have a mantra and they have a narrative and a template. And it is, whatever the Mets do is wrong, and when they do it right, it's wrong. Mets get criticized for every little thing. You didn't sign this minor league player. Well, why didn't you sign him? Well, you signed this guy. Well, why'd you sign this guy? And they feed into this negativity because this is the old way of communicating with the sports fan back 25, 30 years ago. They have not changed that approach. They've not been positive. That is why sports radio in particular is a dying medium. WFAN's parent company, Odyssey, has claimed bankruptcy. And who knows who's going to buy them. See, it seems like CBS wants to sell them off. They're losing money like crazy. They can't afford even the talent, quote unquote, they have on the air. That's why you see a lot of these sort of backbenchers given this show, like, say, Sal Licata, who had been at the radio station for 20 years as a fill-in and an overnight guy and then the guy on the weekend. God bless him. He now has this job. But I would mention about the spaz, Sal Licata, the things he says on his radio program, he does not mention it at all on his SNY program at 6 o'clock, Baseball Night in New York, when he discusses the Mets. He doesn't say anything. He hasn't spoken up once about how he wants the Mets to trade Pete Alonso. And he's putting out so much garbage. I'm going to play you this clip. Hold on a second.
I'm not 100% certain that Alonso is all about being a lifelong Met.
I don't blame
think
him.
It's very possible that he may prefer the two teams that I
Cubs,
heard.
Yankees.
Yeah, there you go.
I don't blame him.
So if you heard in this clip, you heard that, and this is from a few weeks ago, that Sal says that Pete Alonso wants to be traded away from the Mets, and not only away from the Mets, but to the Yankees. And the Coconut Head, Brandon Tierney, egging him on. Now, they've kind of tempered things because they've gotten hammered by us fans, particularly this channel, and some other channels have been going after them pretty hard. They had the nerve, the audacity 2-3 weeks ago, the first week of spring training, to put on that grifter, Frank Fleming, who claims he's a Mets fan, but gives you no idea what the Mets need to do to help this ball club for this year, at the very least. With him, it's one negative thing after another. They didn't do this right. They didn't do that right. They signed Pete. He's going to be bad. They trade Pete. They're not going to get any kind of value for him. And it's also the same guy that said that Carlos Correa was going to win a Triple Crown last year And why? Because the Mets didn't sign him. This is the stupidity. But they platformed him on their radio station, and they got hammered so hard that they had to bring in this guy Clem, who also works for Barstool Sports, and had him on in the morning program again to sort of. Again, I said this before. Dave Portnoy is close friends with the radio station, and as you know, Dave Portnoy wanted to desperately buy the Mets, along with Alex Rodriguez, Jennifer Lopez, Travis Kelce, and that didn't happen. And obviously Steve Cohen became the owner. Now, they've been trying to be positive. You see more positivity, more fairness, because not only have I been hammering them since August, but I've been hammering them all winter long. They need to hit that subscribe button if you want to see me make fun of them. I make fun of them. I don't care. I'm not part of their satanic company. And don't ever doubt me on this. If they're going after Pete Alonso, there's got to be a reason. He seems like a nice kid. He seems like a nice guy. Here's some Odyssey.com. And I played you that one clip. It's a very short clip. Hopefully no problems with it. I played it before. But I'm going to play it. I'm going to read you some things what Odyssey puts out, which is their website. And just reading their quotes. I got 3 different articles here. Let's start with the coconut head. BT praises Mets for resisting temptation to appease the fans, sticking with the long-term plan. The coconut is not high in the Mets in 2024. Why would he be? He's a Yankee scum fan. That's what he is. And this is the guy that he will say, if you're not his team, he will say, and he did this last offseason, when talking about Daniel Jones, that the Giants should not resign Daniel Jones, but within a week, this guy said, you know what? The Jets should sign him. This is before they got Aaron Rodgers. So BT has an alternative. He's got a different motive, ulterior motive. In that, he'll say that the Mets should trade Pete Alonso, but then the next week he'll say, the Yankees should sign him. He becomes available. We could use that right-handed power. Have him match up. Have him go with Aaron Judge there at Yankee Stadium. He'd hit 50 home runs easy. You DH him. Don't doubt me. The coconut is not high in the Mets in 24 as he doesn't expect them to be a playoff team, nor a team that will win even 80 games. But he does see the vision for long-term success, which is why he applauds David Stearns and company for seeing it through while ignoring the outside noise. Like you assholes, you're the outside noise. Quote, I didn't realize a coconut could talk. To hire Stearns and not let him do his job would be dumb, BT said. I get the frustration. I think in the long run, this is going to pay off for you guys. See, talking down to us Mets fans. Again, they abuse us. And it is these idiots on this radio station that have been begging the Mets to fire David Stearns. 4 days after getting the job, Greg Giannotti, the craziest person at the radio station, had said that the Mets should fire David Stearns if he trades Pete Alonso. So 4 days into having the job, he pretended to be a Met fan and speak for us and say the Mets should fire him. So people at his own radio station, have platformed people like Frank Fleming, who has called for the Mets to fire David Stearns. This is the same asshole, by the way, Frank Fleming, who has complained about the Mets draft situation that they've not been able to bring in major league players and had them in the major leagues. I want to point out something to this grifter. When you're constantly changing your front office with 6 general managers and 6 people to run it over the last 7 years and 6 managers over the last 7 years, you're not going to have a good farm system. Okay? The very simple thing. The coconut continues. They're resisting the temptation to appease you and appease the fans. I honestly commend the Mets. Yeah, go fuck yourself, coconut head. The Mets are doing the hardest thing to do, especially in this city. They're tuning out the noise and agitation from the fans, and they're moving forward with their plan. You know what? You do not talk for us. You don't talk for us. Say I wonder why the Mets couldn't sign proven players to short-term deals to keep the team competitive in 24 without sacrificing the long-term plan. But the coconut says This method will allow the team to get a better look at its young core to get a clearer idea of its needs moving forward. Before the end of the season, you'll have an answer on Vientos and Beatty. I think we'll have it before that, Coconut Head. How you will get the intel you need to move forward with intelligent decisions. What a condescending son of a bitch. Now, since August, this particular program, this mid-morning program, has had a war ongoing with the New York Mets, in particular on Pete Alonso. They've been saying that he's been a toxic guy in the clubhouse. Even though they quoted Tommy Pham saying that there were bad guys in the Met clubhouse last year, they failed to mention that Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, and Francisco Lindor he had a lot of respect for. So they kind of ignored that when they discussed it this past winter. And they've been calling since August. Now, it came out that the Mets were shopping Pete. They were looking to move him. They just wanted to see what was out there. So many players get shopped. If you don't get shopped, that means you're not any good. So they wanted to see what his value was, and apparently there wasn't any value. The Mets will not get true value for Pete Alonso. He doesn't play a premium position. He's not a shortstop. He's not a center fielder. He's not a starting pitcher. He's a first baseman, and first basemen do not bring in a lot of talent, quite frankly. The last big first baseman that got moved was Paul Goldschmidt when he went from the Diamondbacks to the Cardinals. The Cardinals have gotten now a great player. Paul Goldschmidt is going to be probably a Hall of Famer. But the Diamondbacks did not get any value. This last season, they DFA'd the last player that they still had from that trade. So none of the players that they received from the Cardinals have been of any value. Obviously, the Diamondbacks were in a very difficult position. They weren't playing well. They needed to move on from Paul Goldschmidt. They needed to open up that spot, obviously, for Christian Walker, who's been a very good first baseman and very good power hitter. But they've been attacking. This is WFAN. Attacking Pete Alonso for almost a year now. And it started with this morning program, which had just started out. And it's been led by this Met fan, Spaz Salicata. Now, Brandon Tierney, he's not a Met fan, like I said. He's a Yankee scum. He's a Yankee scum fan. And because of that, he has his own motives to why he wants certain players being moved. And as you saw early in the clip, he's desperate to get every good player on the Yankees. Now, Pete has been the best power hitter in the game since 2019. He's hit more home runs than Aaron Judge there in the Bronx. He's hit more home runs than Matt Olson, which I don't understand how Matt Olson hit 15 more home runs in 2023 than he did the year in 2022. But Pete has been a prolific home run hitter. He's got 192 home runs and 498 RBIs. He's played 5 years. That's almost 100 RBIs a year. And obviously, the lockdown in 2020 cut into his numbers. His numbers would be way, way further out front. Now, Keith Hernandez, as we know, we love Keith. He played for the Mets. He's an announcer with them, broadcaster. He compares Pete to Harmon Killebrew. If you look at Killebrew's numbers and Pete's numbers, they're very similar. The biggest knock that Pete has as an offensive player is that his batting average is around 250. But Harmon Killebrew's batting average was around 250 as well. So they are similar players. That is a comparison. You cannot ignore it. Now, Brandon Tierney, who is a Yankee apologist, a Yankee shill. There are a lot of Yankee shills on that radio station, including the self-proclaimed one, Keith McPherson. Now, we know in the past that radio DJs back in the day used to get paid off by record companies to say good things about records. They'd play records. They'd give them what they call payola. I just have a simple question. It's a very simple question. Does this thing still happen today? Does this still happen? I mean, do teams pay off some of these guys to go after another team in town? It's just a question. I'm not accusing anybody of it. Do they get tickets to go to a ball game? No problem. Just saying. Because this has been going on for a very long time. It seems to be very coordinated, in my view, for a very long time. Now, I also know that I've goofed on them pretty hard. I goofed on Boomer Esiason, who went after, many years ago, Daniel Murphy and his family. He also went after and threatened Steve Cohen that he was never going to a ball game again. And also, I know that last week, watching SNY, that Tiki Barber called Met fans delusional if they're ignoring the fact the Mets did nothing. There's no ignoring it, Chrome Dome. There's no ignoring the fact the Mets did not have a very active winter in terms of bringing in big names. Nobody's disputing that. But Met fans that are tired of your garbage, your radio station's garbage, of the constant pounding, of how everything, the sky is falling. That's why nobody watches you. No, it's why nobody listens to you. It's as simple as that. I would mention the Mets lost their first spring training game, and accounts on Twitter were saying that the season was over. Ridiculous. Completely, totally ridiculous. And that's the mentality there at WFAN as well. So here we have another article from Odyssey. From the Coconut. Makes total sense for Mets to be open to trading one-dimensional Pete Alonso. Great. Sal says the Mets should have shut down any talk about potentially trading Pete Alonso, but the Coconut says there's a reason why they haven't, and they were wise not to. I would mention that Steve Cohen came out and said that he loves Pete, and that the Mets, he'd be silly to not listen to us as fans and as customers that we want Pete Alonso here. He said this last week. So if the boss says that, what are they saying? They're not going to say they're not going to trade him. Everybody's available. Everything's for sale, asshole. You didn't have a long-term deal. Quote, it all adds up totally. We got another Colombo. And the Coconut. It makes complete sense. They don't think he's nearly as good as a lot of you do. And they're right. Well, hey, Coconut Head, Pete had a horrible June. What was their record last year in June after Pete got hit? That's everything you need to know. It makes total sense. He's a one-dimensional player, and they know it. Home runs and RBIs cannot be disputed. I would not build a Mets with an exorbitant long-term contract to a 1-2 player who plays a position that is being de-emphasized a little like the running back has been in the NFL. They talk down to us. Again, if you just read this the way you read it, they talk down to us as Mets fans. No wonder why Mets fans don't watch and don't listen to WFAN. The Spanish still believes the Mets were wrong to be open to trading Alonso. Hey, Sal, you're calling for Pete to get traded. Or even entertain calls about a trade back at the 23 trade deadline. And still believes he will be in Queens long term. As much as you could pick holes in his game, Spaz said, is still a tremendous player and a known commodity. When it comes to hitting home runs, the response should be no way ever. I wouldn't even consider it. They're not moving him. You have no value. Pete has no value to any team but the Mets. Because he's done a lot. He's probably going to hit 500 home runs if he stays healthy. And I don't think Pete's the type of player that's going to break down like other players break down. I just don't see it. And eventually he'll be a DH. I think in another 2-3 years his defensive skills are going to deteriorate. The Mets will have to DH him. Or any team will have to DH him. But right now, he's 29 years old. He's in the middle of his prime. Why move this guy? Why move him? And why even entertain letting him walk? You know why? Because this is the insanity you deal with at the nervous hospital known as WFAN.
They're coming to take me away, ha ha. They're coming to take me away, ho ho, hee hee, ha ha. To the funny part.